Hey Ali, thank you so much for being with me on the Purposeful Mindset podcast. I'm honestly super excited to have you on the show. I know, to give everybody a little context of how we met, I found you on Clubhouse when I first started on the app about, it's been like 2.5 or 3 weeks now for me. And then I found you in some room talking about like just business, entrepreneurship, mindset. You were just dropping the wisdom. I was like, holy cow, like I definitely want to, your energy just resonate with me. And I was like, I need to connect with her and kind of jump up to the speaker stage. And then I kind of jumped up and then I start having a conversation with everyone else, and then we just start having a conversation. Really, that's what the platform's all about: adding value, helping each other, supporting. And I basically just went out there and just boldly asked, "Hey, Ali, like I would love to have you on the podcast. If you're ever open to it, let me know." And here you are today. So thank you so much for taking the time out to come and share your life lessons with my audience. And I'm honestly just gonna zip up and I just want to really just listen and learn from your wisdom and what would you say, like through your journey of design and business and all the stuff, that the amazing things that you've been up to in the last few years, what would you say are your top 5 life lessons?
Oh, okay. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. And congrats on this podcast. I love what you're doing and the gems you're dropping and, the energy and the positive vibes that you're putting out there. And, this is such a great podcast for people that need that inspiration or, maybe just kind of getting into entrepreneurship and they're looking for different guidance. I love what you're doing with the show. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
And yeah, and on Clubhouse, and yeah, I love the app too. I've actually had to draw boundaries. That would be definitely something I would drop into one of the life lessons. I have to draw boundaries with the app because it's such a great app, and I've been using it so much that I catch myself on it for like hours at a time, and then I'm not
Yeah.
getting something else done. And so I've had to like really like pull back after the first week and be like, okay, I'm only going to be on it at these hours, and I'll listen at these hours, but I'm not going to speak all day. And so, I would say actually that would be a really good kind of segue to the first lesson in business is boundaries. It's something that we all need to be able to draw and it in personal life and business and relationships and everything. But for whatever reason, in my opinion, we're not really taught about that, from the
Mm.
get-go. Like because we are, especially entrepreneurs like myself, yourself, we're hustlers, we're grinding, we're trying to do everything and we're trying to make everybody happy. We don't realize that maybe for clients and everything, at least for myself, I was constantly people pleasing, especially with celebrities and everything that I think that was like a very important lesson for me was boundaries, was learning, how to say to my clients, it's 2 in the morning and I'll get back to you at a normal hour,
Mm.
and that wasn't easy, especially with celebrities and, with people of higher, profile and expect you to be around all the time. In the beginning, I was very accessible 24/7 to them. Didn't matter what I was doing. I would answer them. I would go over to their home at 1 in the morning to drop off a gown. If they had a fashion emergency, like it didn't matter. I would stay there till all hours of the night if they needed help with something. And I was very like I was kind of, to be honest, like a slippery slope because in the beginning it was like I was doing it because I wanted to build my credibility and I wanted to be there to show them like I was there. But then it was like, you give an inch and someone takes a mile. And so they did. And it was like, okay, now they want me to be there all night. Now they, want me to be there on the weekends. Now they expect me to show up to this event, even if I'm not supposed to be there. Like they want me there because they just want me there. And it was this like kind of, pull and twist kind of slippery slope of like, okay, so I want to be there because I want to be there for my job and for my client, but then I also want to have a life. But now my life's kind of becoming this because this is all I'm doing. And so when
Mhm.
I was younger, I think it was a little bit okay for me because I was just hustling really hard. I was working really hard to build my name, build my credibility. So I would go wherever, do wherever, it didn't matter. But then when I got pregnant with my first daughter, that's when I really started learning about boundaries because I'm pregnant, I'm exhausted. I was very sick in the beginning of my pregnancy and at the end. So it was like, not only was I pushing myself, but like physically my body was being pushed. And, at first I didn't feel like right about saying, like, oh, I can't be on set right now because I don't feel good, so I would go anyways. And I would get sick on set and I'd step off to like handle my business, but it was like, it wasn't what you should be doing. I
Mhm.
had to learn kind of the hard way that I had to draw boundaries and that I had to say, like, hey, I have an assistant for this reason. They're going to come instead of me and I'm going to make sure you're set up for success, but I'm not going to be there. Or, here's what you need and here's what I'm going to oversee, but I'm not going to be there in person because I have to, worry about my health. And so that was, a lot of my big, lesson in that boundaries and still to this day of like really drawing them, especially being a busy mom of two and being an entrepreneur and wearing many hats. I've had to, take moments and say, okay, you know what, these are my hours for the girls, which is most of my hours, and then these are the times I can talk for a little bits here and there on a quick phone call, or if I need to do something, for a quick chat, or if a client needs this or whatever it may be, and fine tuning those moments and finding those productive moments, and then really carving out time for myself at night and knowing like, okay, this time I'm a night owl. So some people like to get up early in the
Me too.
morning, some people like night. I thrive at night. So, so it's
Yeah.
like I think it's funny because I think some people are like all about the day and some people are all about the night. I'm a total night owl. I always have been. So, it like back in the day when I would go out with them and be everywhere, I would have fun. I wouldn't mind. I was out till all night because that was my thing. But now at home, especially now everything that's going on in the world, I'm home at night and I work through the night. And that's when I get things done. That's when I can really say, okay, this is like my boundary. This is my things that I'm doing, whether it be work, personal, whatever it is. This is my time to make things happen, for me that's on my to do list. And so I think that that's just an important lesson for anybody, even if you are, grinding and first starting out. Think about those boundaries because it's much harder to create them later down the road
Mm.
than it is to start them in the beginning. Because you start them in the beginning, like anything else, even with like, a friendship, you can say like, oh, I don't really want to do that, or oh, that's not really my thing, or whatever it might be, and nobody's going to think twice. But when you start to, give and give and give, and then all of a sudden you start to take back, and you just start to take back and take back, and slowly people are looking at you like, wait, why, and I had clients like say to me like, well, why can't you be available, or why can't you do this and you did this before, and it's like, oh well, you're right, I did, but I can't, things have changed, and so drawing those boundaries can be very difficult and very I would say it also can feel very personal, but it's not. Boundaries exist for a reason. And so I would just say boundaries in business, especially, is really important no matter what stage of the game you are. And now that I've drawn them as hard as they've been, my life has gotten much easier and much, better and more in flow all around. So that would be my first thing for sure.
Love that.
Um, thank you.
So powerful.
Um, yeah, well, it's like to be honest, like I didn't realize that that was so important. For
Mm.
me, everything else was so important. And it was like, oh, focus on getting the clients, focus on, being available, make sure that you know exactly what you're speaking to, and all those things. And I had all those tools and I had built all of that around me. But I didn't realize that like I was drowning in a sense because I wasn't getting any time to recharge,
Yeah.
recharging, especially right now,
Self-care
obviously
was
during the
non-existent
pandemic.
for you, right?
No, self-care was not existent, self-love was not existent, none of it, It's like I think self-care sometimes too is such a buzzword. And
Mm.
I've realized during the pandemic, and everything and the shutdown, like I realized during that time that like self-care really goes one step further if you're really honoring yourself, and like it's self-love, it's like
Hmm.
loving on yourself, whatever that may be, allowing yourself to just do something that you enjoy, like for me, I love meditation, I love breath work. I really enjoy doing things to go inward, in the last few years. And so that's part of my own work and journey. And so I allow myself that space. I don't get to do it every single day necessarily, but I make the space, I create that space. But how do I create that space? By drawing boundaries, because if I don't, then you just keep going and all of a sudden the 24 hours are gone. We all get 24 hours in the day and that's it, and we don't realize like how powerful it is if you can start to create those boundaries to break up those spaces to be able to give back so you can recharge, you can refuel, and I think that a lot of times we all think like go go go, and then it's funny, like I was telling my girlfriend the other day, I really believe the pandemic, as much as it's been crazy, has served a lot of blessings in the sense that we've all had to kind of come off this hamster wheel and this like automatic pilot of like, this is how it's supposed to be, this is life. But it's like once you are kind of come to a screeching halt on those brakes and you feel it, like I think we all felt it back in the early 2020, everybody was like, oh my gosh, well, what do I do, and now what, and now what happens, and it was like all of us like a shock to all of our systems. I know it was for mine, and I had to like really like sit with myself and say, okay, here's another example of like create this boundary has kind of been created for all of us of like, you're not going to go, go, go. You're not going to just power back into what you were doing. You're going to like take a step back and like really think about like, am I being intentional in what I'm doing? Am I living in my purpose and all these things. And that's what I kind of feel like a lot of that served, and I think a lot of people reinvented themselves,
Mhm.
rebranded, changed what they were doing, maybe they changed their job completely, they transformed. And I don't think that that's a coincidence that so many people went through that. I think really 2020 was a huge, and still continuing 2021, just a huge start of all of that. And that
Mhm.
does start with a boundary, whether you create it for yourself or it's created for you, because sometimes we don't create them. Sometimes it comes from, external source. So I just think that that's something really, important to think about. And then what you were just saying about, self-care, all of that. That's another thing, like we don't talk about, everyone talks about, being a hustler and grinding and make sure you do this and you do that. And you're always ahead. And it's like, yes, that's great. Completely agree and completely have been that woman and have, stayed up all night and gotten, things done and made things happen and, sacrificed, everything to make something happen. But at the same time, that same sacrifice, that same drive, that same push, you should also then give back to yourself. Maybe not that week when things are crazy. I think it's like I've learned, especially as a mom of two, like, there really is so much good and productiveness that comes from rest and comes from recharging and comes from self-care and self-love, even though society doesn't teach us that, teaches us to constantly climb the ladder and have this rat race. And it's like, yes, okay, that's fine. And you can work and work and work and hustle, hustle, hustle. But then the day, you have to also then say, okay, this period was about that. Now, this time is going to be about rest.
Yes.
Because if I don't, then I can't put back into everything I've been building and everything I've been doing, and I'm going to exhaust myself. And that happened to me several times. I would have massive burnout in the entrepreneur world. I still do sometimes. And as soon as I feel it now, because I'm old enough and like, have gone through so much to know, like, oh, you know what? I don't feel good right now, or I feel really depleted, or I can't even think, I can't even blog, I can't even create content. Well, why is that? Because I'm blocked. Because,
Mhm.
my energy is blocked, because I'm exhausted, because I've drained myself. Now I have to get back to my self care, my self love routine. What does that look like for me? And for everybody, that's different. For some people, that's working out. For some people, that's going for a walk, talking to a friend, whatever it is. But know like your toolbox. Everyone needs to have that toolbox of like that self care, that self love to tap into and say, okay, here's how I'm going to recharge. Here's how I'm going to get myself going again so that I can come back stronger into everything that I'm doing instead of continuing to force myself to push through and
Mhm.
essentially burn out. Because, especially in entrepreneurship, the burnout is real. I've been there so many times and I felt completely depleted and wanted to stop everything I'm doing. And it's not a good feeling and it's not a healthy feeling. So,
No.
the more that you can check back into that for yourself and create that toolbox, the easier, again, like anything else, when we all do different practices in life, the easier you're going to relate back to that. And it's not even going to feel like you've had to stop yourself. You're just going to automatically do it. I've noticed lately for myself, like I'm not as, like I don't notice as much like, oh, the burnout. I just feel like yesterday, perfect example. I was working, working, working these last few nights, like really long, like 2, 3, 4 in the mornings. I've had a lot of stuff, things I'm behind on to get done. And it's been really busy with my girls. And so I just stayed up and got things done. And last night I came in my office and I came in to work on some projects and I just felt immediate like fatigue and I just felt exhaustion. And I was like, well, I could probably get this one blog done. I could finish this. And then I sat there and I just felt my energy and I was like, nope, I'm gonna go to bed. And I
Mhm.
laid down and I knocked out like within like 5 minutes, and I woke up and my body just felt so rested. And I was like, okay, that was what I needed. And
Yep.
today I'll get it done. And I think a lot of times, like as entrepreneurs, especially, we look at everything as like emergencies. I know I did. I was so guilty of like everything must be done right away, must
Rush,
be done.
right?
They
Rush,
text
rush,
me,
rush.
yeah, rush, 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 rush. They text me, I have to answer on that dime. They email me, I got to get right back. This, that, and it's like that's not. It's again,
It's like
society
breathe,
has
calm
created those.
down, breathe.
Yes, yes. Society has created that illusion, but that's not really the case. It's like unless you're, a doctor or someone who's, like, curing, cancer or, doing something with heart surgery, like it's not an emergency. I mean, it's, most of us, especially as entrepreneurs, it's like it is definitely important. It's definitely, of course, of our passion and everything that we're doing. But if we can't slow down, like you were just saying, and breathe, it becomes it ends up being detrimental. At least for me, it suffocated me in so many ways. And I've had to really take a step back and say, like, whoa, why am I feeling this suffocating feeling? Like, how do I get back? How do I get grounded to find that for me? And I would just say, like, as a, that lesson of self-care, self-love is like find that grounding for yourself. Figure out the things that make you happy, that make you feel good, that fill you back up, that has nothing to do with work. My husband has said to me before, and I used to get frustrated because I'd be like, well, that's what I like to do. But now I understand what he was saying. He used to say to me, well, all you do is work and you don't take a break. And I'm like, well, yeah, I do. I lay down and then I just scroll on my, on fashion blog. And he's like, but you're still working. Like, I know you enjoy it, but you're still working. Like, you're not disconnecting, you're not deep plugging, like you're not doing any of that. You're just staying in it. And I
Mhm.
used to get annoyed and be like, well, whatever, like I love fashion and that's me and I want to do this. But now it's like I get it. It's like, oh, it clicked. You're right. I need to do something completely separate. My mind is completely off of it, even just for 15 minutes, so that my brain, everything can
You need
shut
to zone
down and
out.
take
Yeah.
a rest. Yeah, and slow down. And it's like, I think it's just like rest is productive. I think we really need to like really like get that in our brains, myself included, is like it really is productive. And rest actually can equal more creativity and bigger breakthroughs. And when we release that energy of feeling constantly stuck, energy then will move, but it can't move if we're just staying in the same position. So it's like, coming back to that self-care and self-love allows you to do that and allows you to process that and allows that rest to come in. So that's another really big lesson I've had to learn for years with my entrepreneurship, and constantly still coming back to this practice and being really intentional. Like, for me, I journal almost every morning. I have my journal right here. And I, whether it be,
Amazing.
four or five things in gratitude that I'm grateful for, and then, a little bit of my own thoughts and what I'm thinking and what I want to call in for the day. And just taking those few minutes to like create that space for yourself makes such a
So
difference in
powerful,
the
right?
way.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. I had no idea. Like, I used to laugh at friends of mine. Like, one of my best friends is like a total hippie. I love her to death, but she's total hippie. And like, just totally like, from the get go, always was that way. And would just be like, you need to just like get in the ground and put your feet. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I used to literally be like, okay, I love you. It doesn't work for me. Like, and now like she laughs at me because she's like, oh, look at what you're doing. And it's like, it's true. It's like whether it be, getting grounded, literally getting your feet in the ground, or, taking a walk, getting in nature, meditating, writing something down, prayer, breath work, like whatever it is that resonates, for you working out. Like, everybody has their different releases, but like we all have to get back to that release, because that release, that movement of energy, it's all that self-care, it's all that self-love. It promotes that rest, it promotes that next thing. And then when you have that rest, when you give back to yourself, all of a sudden things get more in flow. I know for me, like, I already woke up to things that were happening this morning that were like wonderful on my phone. And I was like, oh, good. Because for a minute there last night, I was like, oh no, I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done. And then, of course, the universe was like, nope, you did what you were supposed to do. You rested, and here's your reward. I really believe it really does work that way. I know
Yeah.
it's not that simple, but I think when you get intentional and you create those practices, it's really important, which would lead me to my third tip and lesson I've learned is be intentional.
Mm.
Really be intentional in what you do and what you put out there and what you create. Again, we're all so busy in the I must make money, I must get to the top, I must climb, I must do this, I must do that. But even for myself, when I've had conversations with, super successful entrepreneurs and public figures and everything, the ones that really fly, they're a purpose. They're in their purpose. They're really living out, what I believe, universe, God, whatever resonates with you, set out for you to be here to do. And it doesn't mean you can't be, still be successful and still making good money, but you're aligned and you're in purpose. And how do you get intentional? You sit there and you ask yourself, are the things I'm doing leading back to my why? Are the things I'm doing leading back to what I wanted to do in the first place? And I know for me, and there's so many times where, as styling and blogging and social media, where, it's like, oh, well, that would be great money, or, oh, that'd be a great this, but is it really an opportunity? You have to ask yourself that. We're
Mhm.
all, especially as we all go up in the world, we're all going to be presented all these different things that seem like opportunities, but not every single thing is an actual opportunity for you to actually take to align with. And that's something I've had to continuously learn too, because I fill myself up and say yes, yes, yes to everything, and then all of a sudden again I have no time, don't have boundaries, and then I can't show up for everyone, I can't even show up for myself. I'm drained again, I'm burned out, and I didn't maybe even get out the message I was trying to get out, or I didn't get something done that I wanted to actually get done. Come back to yourself before you say yes to everything and get intentional and say, does this align with me? Does this align with my business? Is this what I want to be a purpose in? Is this the message I want? Is this building what I want? If it does, then great, then do it. But if it doesn't, maybe sit there and ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Or can I push it maybe and see if it's something I want to do later? Or just say no and know that it's okay again to create that boundary, that you're not saying yes to everything. There's always going to be things in front of you, even if it doesn't feel that way. Like I know for me in the beginning, I was afraid to say no to one celebrity to
A lot of
style.
people still
I
do.
was
They're
I
afraid
was
to say no.
petrified to say no. Yes, I was petrified to say no. Like I was like, if I say no, then someone else is gonna not call me. And that's not true. I really believe what's meant for you will come, no matter
Hmm.
what industry you're in. And you're right, people are afraid, and I've been afraid too. And you just say yes and yes and yes and yes. But the more that you can create those boundaries, the more that you can get intentional about what am I saying yes to, what am I saying no to, the more then also the universe is going to give you more of the yes that you want and not the no's, because you don't realize, but like we're all, myself included, like we're all speaking out the things we want and our desires and everything, even if it's something maybe we don't want, but because we're thinking about it, I really do believe, what you believe, what you think you create, and
Hmm.
so, and essentially it manifests in some way, shape, or form. So, you really get intentional about like, what is it I want to do with my business? What are the projects? When you reached out to me and said, I'd love to have you on my podcast, and I have a busy schedule, obviously. And I went through, my calendar, and I saw what, I looked at your podcast and listened to your podcast and, what you do and how it aligned. And I was like, I would love to be a part of this message. So I will figure out and make room, in my schedule to do this, And so I think that being intentional in everything you do is a huge part of your success in business, because then it also others see that you're intentional in what you're creating, and it comes across that way, and it's no longer just, oh, they're everywhere
Hmm.
just because they can be everywhere. And I was that woman. Like there is no shame, there is no judgment, like I was the one who said yes to everything. I styled every single celebrity, even if I didn't, feel like I wanted to do the fashion project, even if I felt like maybe their style wasn't for me. It didn't matter. I just said yes because it was just yes.
Yeah.
And now I've learned to come back to being intentional. Where did I start? Why did I get into styling in the first place? Oh, because I say confidence is your best accessory, because I want to make people feel good. Okay, well, if that person doesn't align with how I feel about feeling good, then why am I styling them? It doesn't
Hmm.
mean that there's anything wrong with them. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean there's anything wrong with me. It just means that we just don't align. So I think coming back to that intention, is really, really important in your business. I mean, in life, of course, but especially in business, to really think about what's an actual opportunity and what's not.
I love that, Ali. And you know what? I just want to add quickly, with the intention. But okay, firstly, I want to add the fact that like I love you guys. I love you mothers. Like you mothers, I have so much respect for. Like honestly, I speak to so many of them. A lot of my clients are also mothers, and I'm just like,
I love that.
I love that you guys are just like you have that business like hustle mindset, but it's like you want to do the business, you want to do this, you want to do everything, and you still have these toddlers running around like, oh, stop this and stop that, I need to feed this one, feed that one, put that one to sleep. And like honestly, since I was a little boy, like so I have three older sisters and one younger brother, so kind of had like a big family and my siblings and stuff, and I grew up with all of them. And I just saw like how my mom kind of like, just how she kind of rounded us together and kind of put that discipline in us and the mindset. And now I see that, like, as I get older and I surround myself with people who are so much wiser than me and have so much more experience, and I kind of look at their life thinking, wow, like this lady is so inspiring. Like she does this, that, and she has these kids running around. I don't know how she does it. But honestly, I love the fact that you guys can just multitask and do everything at the same time, and at the same time you still have that passion and that the intention you're talking about. You have that deep connection with your why, with your purpose, with what it is that you want to do in your life. And so that's the first thing I love, that you women are just like, especially mothers, like you guys are just
Thank you.
so
Well, I think,
empowering. And
moms are amazing, and thank you for saying that. I mean, I say this all the time. All moms are super, are super women. Truly,
yeah,
like I had
definitely.
no idea until I became a mother. And I think that children bring that, that beautiful gift, out of mothers. I think that they show you truly what's important, and what your true priority is,
Mhm.
your children, and then everything else is after. And for
Yeah.
me at first, that was a real shakeup because for me, I wasn't, I don't think I was willing to accept it. I don't think I really realized that's what I was stepping into. And so I fought it and fought it and fought it. And the universe, put me on my ass for it. You know what I mean? I went
Yeah.
through my heavy postpartum depression for those that, know my story. And if not, you guys can, go read about it. But, I went through a lot because I fought it and because I didn't want to step into it. But then when I finally came to a better place and I was healthy and I was able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and I had, stepped into motherhood in a whole new way, all of a sudden, again, things opened up for me and I started aligning with, my purpose and some new purposes, and started really trusting in that, I was being guided and that even though this was difficult and hard, I would figure it out. And and I haven't figured it all out, but it's gotten easier, and it's gotten better. And it has its moments, of course, like anything else, but it's taught me, it truly has. I've said to my husband, like, I feel I'm more productive now. I feel I'm more successful now in my business than I ever was, which is hilarious to me because I'm busier than ever before. I've got two girls all over the place, like I have short amounts of time to make things happen. But like you were saying, and I think to another, gem and tip when you were speaking, it came to me, everyone looks at, especially moms, they look at people and say, oh, they do it all. So my like challenge or my thing back to that would be I do it all, but not all at once. I
Mm.
think it's really important for people to realize that it may, especially with social media and everything else, look like I'm doing it all, but it's not all happening at once. And there are so many things that slip through the cracks constantly all day long. I get an email, oh, hey, did you send me this date? Oh, no, I forgot. Oh, did you get this link to me yet? Oh, no, I got to do that tonight. Like, it's like all these little, pieces that, maybe aren't getting done right at once, but they get done, but not all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and the same with even like personal, like laundry piles up for days and then I get to it. It's like, it's just, coming back to knowing that, like, again, it's a real juggle, whether you're a mom or not. It's a real juggle, especially as an entrepreneur. And you have to know it's okay to, like, you can do it all, but not all at once, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Like, I'm all
Yeah.
about multitasking, but not to the point of exhaustion and detriment to yourself to be like, oh, I got it all done, but okay, now I'm depleted. And now, like, I literally can't function for 2 days because I did so much and I wanted to make it all happen in one space. It's just not reality. It's something I did to myself for many years. It's not healthy,
Mm.
And so it's like the more you can say to yourself, this should be like a harmony, not necessarily. I hate the word balance personally. I'm not a fan.
Me too.
So it should be a harmony, this should be a really ebb and flow, like this works, that's not working right now. And just go with it as much as humanly possible. I understand obviously there's deadlines. I get on them too. Those kinds of things you got to work around. But at the same time, then you have to let go of something else instead of trying to do it all. So just when you hear someone else and you feel like you're looking at someone else, especially on social media, because I know how it goes, I do it
Mm-hmm. The
too.
comparison, yeah.
Yes. And that was my next tip. No comparison. In my opinion, comparison is literally like like it's the most rocking feeling no matter where you are in your career. You could be at the top. I've had this conversation with people who are extremely successful and fellow entrepreneurs and everything. And it is so detrimental to your success. It is so rocking to your being and it kind of like makes you tap into your ego so much more than you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And you get into this place of like fight or flight. You get into this place again of not being intentional and you walk away from your why. You walk away from all the things you're supposed to actually be doing and be in alignment with. And you just get into this rat race of like, I have to do better. I should go on that interview because that person was on that interview. I should do this just because that person's doing this. And it's like, no, maybe that opportunity wasn't meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to stay intentional what you're doing and then, realize that like you really are, if you believe, being guided into what you're supposed to be doing and what you're being receiving and everything. And so it's like, just don't get caught up in the comparison. I've done that so many times too. I still do. If I feel that,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately disconnect myself. The minute I catch myself comparing, you have to think to yourself, oh, I'm literally allowing the death to my own joy right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
literally allowing this feeling of comparison to take away any kind of happiness, positivity, joy, whatever it may be that I have about something. I'm allowing it to take that away and be detrimental. Don't allow it. Again, back to boundaries. Don't allow it. Create those boundaries. I have had so many times on social media where I have had to snooze, mute, unfollow, and say, you know what? It's not making me feel good, or I'm comparing myself too much. It's not about them. It's about me. But if
About
I'm not actually, being intentional about what I'm looking at or consuming, then I have to mute it or I have to snooze it, and you have to say to yourself, like, I'm not going to compare. I'm not going to say, like, I remember when I was first really suffering with postpartum depression, a lot of people didn't know this, but I signed off social media for almost 2.5 months because I was comparing myself to every mom that stood up in heels in their pre jeans a week later and looked amazing and good for them. Like, I think that's incredible, but it wasn't my reality.
Mhm.
I had a C-section, I had a traumatic birth, I was barely breastfeeding, I was in pain, the list went on. I couldn't drive for 9 weeks. I mean, it was like all these things I didn't expect to have happen to me. So I couldn't be, that woman because that's just not that wasn't my reality. And instead of just thinking that to myself, I shamed myself and I judged myself and I compared myself to someone else who I didn't even know. We don't even know these people's stories. Like with
Mm.
social media, we all get swept up, in, oh, look at this person and look
The
what they're
fancy
doing and look what's
bios and the
happening. The-
fancy,
Yes. Yeah. And the highlight reel of everything.
yeah.
We don't realize it really is such a highlight reel. And as much as like, look, it's part of my work and I'm grateful for it, I've had to really say to myself, like, I'm not going to compare. Even when I create content, I'm not going to compare what I'm creating to what that person's creating because what they created was beautiful and that's what resonated for them. This is what resonated for me, And it's like you really have to continue to tell yourself, especially in this world where we are all kind of put in these places to be compared, which I believe and hope is changing. But, for a
It is.
long time, society has created this comparison, this rat race, kind of on purpose, in my opinion. And so you have to really get back to you and say, does that align with me? Am I being intentional about what I'm doing? Or am I just getting swept up because I'm comparing everything for no reason?
Mhm.
Uh-uh. Back to number one, boundaries. Draw
Boundaries.
your boundaries for yourself. How can I create a safer space for myself? It's boundaries on social media, it's boundaries, with clients, it's boundaries within your own relationships, it's all of it, and that's how, to me, it ties back to all the things that we've spoken about.
And I love everything that you spoke about. It all kind of just literally so beautifully just packaged together from boundaries to the end, of
I know
just
I
comparison.
didn't like plan that at all. It just
No,
kind of flowed as
exactly.
you were talking.
It was just so beautifully put together because I believe when we're just authentically being ourselves, things just come around. Like Ali, like in my TED talk, I didn't rehearse, I didn't practice. And people was like, you did a TED talk and you didn't even like rehearse or practice or know what you're gonna say. Ali, I had no clue what's gonna come out of my
I
mouth.
love it.
I did
Good for
not
you.
rehearse nothing. All I did was put
Amazing.
together the presentation, like a 8 or 9 slide presentation. 3 of them just had pictures on them, and the other 2 had like words. And
You were aligned.
I just spoke from the heart because I
Yeah,
know a speaker, that one of the best or some of the best speakers in the world right now. They're good at 2 things. Number one, they're good at storytelling, and number one, they're good at making people feel a certain emotion in the crowd. And because
absolutely.
I knew these two, and I practiced that so much for a year in London, doing a lot of speaking gigs, I knew that like I didn't have to prove myself to go and do a TED talk to just put on my profile TEDx speaker. And now I'm suddenly a fancy speaker. No, I already knew from my kind of part, I knew from my journey that the self-care and self-love that I've given myself, I knew that I'm a good speaker because people would come and tell me that you're amazing, your energy, you're this and that, and I had good feedback all the time. So I kind of knew like I'm on the right journey, like I'm doing well, like Sadiq, well done, like
I
keep
love that.
going. And so when I
Yeah,
did the TED talk, I was just proving to people that look. And I remember the other speakers on the day, they were like upstairs in the little speaker corner room and they were like rehearsing their script. And I'm just thinking, why? Like, and guess what happened? One of the speakers on the day just zoned out. Luckily, on
wow.
YouTube, nobody would see her, but all the live audience, she was talking,
Yeah,
trying to remember her script so much, kind of like
right.
not even looking at the audience, kind of looking up and just speaking from the notes that she took.
Right
And then
from
suddenly she
his,
just
yeah,
stopped and she was like, I forgot what I was about to say next. And I was like,
yeah,
that's why you don't rehearse, woman.
yeah.
That's why you just
Like you
be
said,
yourself.
it came from here, it resonated, it came from here. You were, in alignment, you were very
Mhm.
intentional in what you were sharing. And I think that, in my opinion, I think there's going to be a lot more of that, coming into the world. And I've been seeing that. And it's very inspiring to me because that's something I have been working on, really putting in practice for myself daily.
Mm. I think what you're doing is amazing. Honestly, what you've done from your story and your journey, which everybody, if you're still listening, make sure you guys go and check out Ali's story because it's phenomenal. The stuff that she's done,
Thank
what
you.
she's still doing today, I think is amazing. But Ali, it's coming up to the end of the show, and I always ask my guests like this one question at the end of the show that kind of is kind of introspective and it gets a little bit deep. But in one sentence, so I want you to imagine this. You're given a huge talk, keynote speech after coronavirus and everything is all good. You're doing this huge speech, and there's about 90,000 people in the room. okay, and you're the speaker, like you're the last speaker, and you're dropping the bombs, you're dropping the wisdom, you're dropping all the golden nuggets at everybody, and right at the end, you want to leave like the speakers, sorry, you want to leave the audience in awe. You want to leave them remembering who Ali Levine is. Like you want everybody to remember you by the time you get off the stage. What would that one last sentence be if you were to be speaking to these 90,000 people in the audience?
Wow. Huh. It's a good question. The first thing that pops in my head, so I'm going to go with that. Be authentically you, and that has been quite the journey for myself to get there. It's still something I'm working on. But again, going back to what we were talking about with comparison, like there's only one you, there's only, one city, there's only one alley, it's like step into your purpose, step into your gifts, don't look outside, don't look for anyone else, look inside, look to you. That's where the knowledge is, that's where the wisdom is, that's where your passion is, your purpose, everything, your inner knowingness is you, So I would just say be authentically you. It's something I think I was first really truly intentional about when I first started styling. Was like I always say confidence is your best accessory and making people feel good. But I didn't realize that then I was losing that for my own self of how
Mm.
important that confidence was and tapping back into that authenticity of me. So just be authentically yourself. Everything else will figure itself out, especially in entrepreneurship.
I love it. It's so powerful. It's giving me goosebumps. I'm super excited. I can't wait for everybody to like kind of take all your wisdom and take all the experience and just take all your energy and your love, and just go and implement it and take action in their life. Because everybody that knows me and the podcast, they know that I'm all about taking action. Like it's
I
literally
love
in my
that.
bio. Like I was like, everybody's trying to tell me to make this fancy bio. I'm like, no, I help people take action. Simple as that. That's what I put there straight. Because I was like,
I love
that's what
it.
I
Good
do.
for you.
That's what I love. I don't want to live life like doing what everybody else does and what society or the even the
Yeah.
business entrepreneurship and the speakers and the coaches, and I don't want to be like everybody else. I'm going to do things my way, and I believe so far in my life it's worked. Like if
Yeah.
the TED talk worked by me literally not listening to nobody, including the little thing package that they sent me saying you need to follow these kind of guidelines and stuff, other than the presentation, I didn't follow anything. I just went there, did my thing, and just
Amazing.
shared the magic. Just authentically was me, as you said. And I
Beautiful.
was vulnerable and I was just emotional with everybody. And I was just like sharing the truth because why I was giving my talk about something that I've lived for the last 6 years. Why do I need to practice it? Why do I need to rehearse? There must be
Because
something that
it's
I've
you. It was
done
already
wrong
you.
if I,
Yeah.
if I haven't shared
Mhm.
it genuinely, right?
I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much, Ali. Honestly, I'm so grateful that we had this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm so honored and I'm so grateful that you shared the wisdom and the 5 lessons. And I hope everybody that's listening and watching on YouTube, I hope they can go and implement what you've shared. Where can everybody go reach out to you or come to you with questions or like kind of just find out more about what you do? What's the best platforms that you live on and how can they reach out to you?
Okay, well, I mostly live on Instagram, Ali Levine Design, but all my social is at Ali Levine Design, ALILEVINE Design, no S. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, basically anywhere, on social. But I do spend most of my time on Instagram, as far as creation and, what I share. I do check my DMs and respond. It takes me time, but I do. So please, if something resonated with you or if you have a question or you just want to say hello, whatever it may be, please, I love to meet people. I love to connect. Feel free to drop in my DMs and say hello. And my website is alivine.com. It's actually getting a rebrand right now and all the things we've discussed and all changing the way things I've been doing intentionally. So I'm excited to be sharing that
Nice.
soon. And yeah, basically, if you just look up Ali Levine, you'll find me. But I would say social media wise, Instagram is definitely my main hub. And my podcast, just like this amazing podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, my podcast, Everything with Ali Levine. I really share with amazing guests their real and raw stories, truly authentically themselves. So I hope you guys check it out.
Love it. And I'll put all the links under the YouTube video and around the podcast videos where or the audio wherever you guys are listening. So honestly, make sure, as I always say every week, I connect myself with people like Ali because I know that they are true servant leaders. And that's what my podcast is all about. Having servant leaders share their true wisdom and their life lessons with you all in hopes to inspire you to take action in your life. So Ali, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm super grateful. Any last words for everybody before I hit stop?
Thank you so much for having me. I was honored to be here. And I would just say, I always say confidence is your best accessory. So remember, confidence comes from, within you. So being authentically yourself, you're just going to exude that confidence. So don't lose sight of that.
Love it. Well, thank you once again for being on the show. I'm truly
Thank you.
honored, and I'm looking forward to serve you and help as much as I can and collaborate and try to give my energy and love to you as much as I can every single day from now on. So thank you again for being on the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.